Okay, so paper woman, I like come. So, I was not about got to educate, yes. It's an so it was when I was like, it was meant to be, no idea. Stop. It doesn't matter. No, I think maybe I'm because I got used to the bride. It should have gone sick. It's you, so for sure. Yes, so, but well, don't was I'm like, very on. And I just know. It's check and prairie the ships. Okay, yeah, why? Right, right. She was. Which association is we work with?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm excited to share my research in progress, which explores how I can better support first-year international students in Canada, especially here in British Columbia. As Dr. Betty from Yorkville University reminds us that international students are at the heart of global education. But Professor Simon from University of Oxford points out that most of our students navigate this journey without enough support. So what my study asks is what is really meant to be academic, cultural, and emotional needs and the social adjustment through a culturally responsive social emotional framework. So welcome to my presentation. I'm Donna from Yorkville University. Let's explore what it would look like to have an integrated social emotional learning and a culturally responsive teaching framework. Social emotional learning is provides the foundational framework for emotional well-being. The term was originally and officially introduced by the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning that was founded by Daniel Goleman, the author for Emotional Intelligence. So the model for SEL has 5 key competencies: study, self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Pioneers in educational psychology demonstrated that these SEL competencies are essential for international students in order to manage their emotions, build resilience, which are essential for adapting to new environments. Now, social emotional learning becomes super powerful when you combine it with culturally responsive teaching, which was originally coined by Dr. Geneva at the University of Washington. The culturally responsive pedagogy, she advocated to honor the cultural background, cultural heritage in the classrooms. And prior to that, Dr. Maria Fra, who is a key figure in educational equity, introduced culturally responsive and culturally relevant teaching in order to empower diverse learners. As a report by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, we have over 1 million international students in Canada. And in British Columbia, the international student enrollment had surged over the past decade, which is a great news because it shows that British Columbia is an amazing destination for higher education, but most of our students face language barriers, cultural shock, academic stress, and social isolation. According to a survey by the Canadian Bureau for International Education, over 60% of our international students experience social isolation, emotional stress. And these are not just emotions, but they directly impact the students' retention and academic success. Dr. Maureen, who is from Utah Valley University, popular for her research on international student adjustment, says that lack of social integration and cultural distance can compound adjustment difficulties. So many institutions have actually launched the social emotional learning and culturally responsive teaching initiatives, but there is a lack of integration of these two amazing frameworks. So the foundation is isolated, meaning that there's limited research on this framework that addresses both the emotional as well as the cultural needs simultaneously, particularly for first-year international students. There was a recent research by Irene from University of Yorkville and Michelle from University of Calgary, who had actually showed that international students often feel unheard when they raise concern about things like grading, feedback, deadlines, and academic policies. So my research builds on this by going just a step further. So I would be using the 2 proven teaching approaches, social emotional learning and culturally responsive teaching, to create a supportive framework that will help international students feel more connected, emotionally supported, and engaged in their learning. So what makes my work unique is it not only listens to the student voices, but turns those insights into something more meaningful, structured, and tested to improve their experience in real classrooms. While there are enough international research that supports that the integration of SEL and CRT are meaningful, Canadian empirical studies are scarce, especially those grounded in participatory action research or design-based approaches. And most existing supports do not um, specifically target first-year students. So there is enough evidence to show that transition is usually most acute during the initial stages. So let's say the first semester. So the main research objective is to investigate the challenges faced by the first year international students in Canadian universities. So I would be exploring the application of culturally responsive teaching, the culturally responsive pedagogies, and also the social emotional learning to understand how we can promote student well-being, success, and create more inclusive classroom environments. The goal is to develop an integrated framework using these two approaches so that we can improve institutional support, inform educational policies, and fill the gap in Canadian literature integrating the intersection in post-secondary education. Here is the central question guiding my proposed study. How can social emotional learning and culturally responsive teaching improve international students' first year experiences? And the question is grounded to better understand not just the students' experiences, but also the instructors' perspective. So I've been looking at what practices the faculty members currently use to address the students' emotional and cultural needs, what kind of emotional support and cultural support do the students need, and how can the two approaches be integrated to create an inclusive learning environment. So my research is grounded with two theoretical frameworks. Social emotional learning is not really a singular theory. It is more like a framework that is grounded and pulls ideas from different educational and psychological theories. And culturally responsive teaching was developed by Dr. Geneva, which emphasizes that the inclusion of students' cultural references should be made in all aspects of teaching. So it would promote well-being, it would promote equity, and also a sense of belonging. So culturally responsive teaching would encourage or allow us educators to acknowledge that the students' cultural backgrounds are not obstacles, rather they are assets. So we could use that and add on to social emotional learning and create a space which is emotionally safe and culturally validating learning space that supports international students in holistic ways. So the theoretical underpinnings of SEL and CRT is drawn from several foundational theories. For example, Vygotsky's socioculture of cognitive development that emphasizes learning happens through social interaction, and which is very true for our international students because they learn best from peer interactions, mentorship, and culturally responsive classrooms as well. Then there is the Bandura social learning theory, which focuses on learning by modeling and by observing. And this is connected with SEL because it involves teaching students to understand how to handle and manage their emotions and build relationships. Bandura also has a component about self-efficacy, which is giving you that confidence that, yes, you can succeed. And this is really important for students to believe in themselves and add to their personal and professional growth. Then there is the Goldman's emotional intelligence, which is all about self-awareness, social awareness, and empathy, which are all important social emotional learning skills. Next up, we have the friend Brenna's ecological systems theory that just explains how the environment around the student impacts their development, their social development, their emotional development. So these layers are very relevant because they could range from immediate relationship with their peers, faculty, family members, friends, to the factors happening around them, like immigration policies or cultural expectations and so on. Finally, Kim's cross cultural adaptation theory that explains how to understand the psychological, emotional component and also the cultural component about a student's well-being. So we would find this super relevant because it just shows how a student adapts to a given environment culturally as well as emotionally. And that way, educators could also understand their cultural differences and create something that is more responsive, which is more relevant to the students, and helps to map the emotional and the cultural journey of the first year international students. So to explore the integration of the SEL and CRT initiatives, I am primarily proposing a qualitative research study by means of semi-structured interviews and focus groups. I'll be analyzing the data using thematic analysis and also narrative inquiry because I think they both complement each other really well. So with thematic analysis, I could be finding out common experiences or shared meanings and also an overarching theme. And with the narrative inquiry, I could go deeper into understanding how our students navigate those chapters and understand their lived experiences. Um, phase 3 would be the intervention development, which is based on the findings from phase 2. I might be adopting either a design-based approach or actually research. The data collection will be done through workshops, iterative designs, and feedback cycles. So it does. So my research would include a complementary quantitative analysis, but it's going to be primarily a qualitative-dominant mixed method. Although my research is still in the planning stage, there is strong literature that shows how combining these two approaches could really help international students feel more connected and supported. So I think that the findings could help institutions as well to inform their strategies, whether it is tailored orientations or peer mentoring or even faculty training to have this culturally responsive pedagogy and inclusive classroom practices like emotional check-ins. So while this work is going to be based in Canada, it does hold some global relevance. For example, the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, says that when international students feel supported emotionally and culturally, they are more likely to stay and feel happy in their studies. And graduates from such programs would not only be academically strong, but also be emotionally intelligent and interculturally competent, which we can all agree are essential 21st century workforce skills. Um, so the data that I'm sharing here was gathered from an informal survey where I used Mentimeter and with 85 anonymous respondents. It was just a casual conversation. I was not planning on using these opinions for any study, but I just thought it would be a good starting point in discussion to understand what are the challenges of our international students. So you can see that the findings indicate challenges in cultural adaptation, box or finances, academic, career, peer support, and cultural adaptation. And there is a significant portion expressing the need for a culturally responsive support, something that I plan on to pursue through my formal research. So in the end, supporting international students is not just about orientation sessions or language classes or finding Canadian equivalent degrees, but also I think it takes a systemic effort to prioritize the emotional well-being of the students and their cultural identity. So the model that I am working towards is built on the incredible work of scholars like Dr. Geneva, Castle, Dr. Matson. So, and I see it as a practical and a meaningful way forward. So based on what I learned in the pilot study, I plan to refine my intervention to make it more scalable and effective for a larger study. I'm currently looking for collaboration with experts in international student research, especially those interested in co-authoring at some point in the future. Next up, I will be submitting an ethics application and starting my participant recruitment later this year. I will look forward to sharing my findings at upcoming conferences. Thank you so much for taking this time to meet this talk. I love the gym. Yeah. Yes. Please.
Could you go back to the slide you just had?
This one. This one.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you obtained this information?
So it was like an informal way of just talking to my students, and I put it on Mentimeter. So there were about 150 people that I sent this to, my students that I taught last term, and 85 of them had responded. So I just wanted to kind of get started and see what are the challenges they face. It was completely like a point of discussion, not something that I intend to use in my formal research.
So I understand. but you thought it would inform your research in some way. And I'm interested in the fact that if you look at the first one left, blue one,
Yes.
your participants indicated that their biggest challenge by far was financial constraints. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you how you think that impacts your research design. The second one, the green one, again, the largest proportion of participants' responses were for never using support services. So again, despite such a large variation,
Yeah.
it's still clearly ahead. And when we look down to the orange or red, mental health and well-being, career services are important. And finally, on the purple orange, being unaware of SEL and CRT benefits is the highest. Again, not by much, but clearly there. So the group of students who you had appear to be suggesting that the focus that you have on SEL, CRT may need some justification because it doesn't appear to be fitting in within the framework of the responses you got from these.
Right.
That'd be fair.
It would be. So again, so thank you for the question. Like I was saying that, I was just thinking what are so the question we asked them what are the challenges you guys are having as international students? They're first time students, first new year sorry, first year students or first term students. They were postgraduate and graduate students. So my question to them was specifically catered around what are your challenges? Let's just have a chat. So for most of them, and I'm not surprised that they had come up with finances because how finances are managed across cultures are very different. Like for example, where I came from, when I was a student, all of the finances used to be managed by my dad. I had literally no ideas. The first shock I got when I moved to the United Kingdom to do my studies was pounds versus so my origin is from Bangladesh. I was thinking, how much do I spend? I should always do this conversion because I wasn't too ready for that cultural adaptation there. So I think the question that I asked here and like I clarified, this was just to understand what challenges are they having. So maybe if they understood the proper way of managing their finances and it is not the same across all cultures, it could help them. And then that stress comes down. So I think that all these factors are kind of interconnected somewhere or the other. Coming to your second point was never use support services. Well, that I totally relate with. Like I have extensive office hours, and none of my students ever come unless they want to negotiate a grade with me. Yes. So yeah,
Yes.
I think that happens to most of us. They only come when they see that they have missed several grades and they don't know. So there is enough like communication sent out to them, but they never use those and they feel afraid of speaking up. Like I was pointing towards um, Professor Irene's research where she said that students often feel they're unheard, but in reality, they don't really see these support services that is there available for them. So maybe this is an opportunity for me to make them aware, listen, we're here to help you. And so this is what we can do. Take advantage of these systems. Um, coming to the third point, over was it from here that you asked me something?
Yeah, I was just pointing out the top responses.
Oh, from here, right? And more of the yes, the benefits. So many of them don't. So when I sent out this survey to them, they were doing it like quietly in the classroom. So they were looking up Chat GPT. They were looking at to see what is SEL. I did not say social emotional learning to. I did not see that because I wanted them to do some digging. I wanted them to. So they were actually looking at. No, we never heard of it. Some of them actually just read the title and they thought they liked it, and so they say so. That's not the numbers present here, but again, some of them, yes, I agree with you, are huge variations, outliers. But this was just an amalgamation, like an aggregated results of what are your challenges, not very specific to my formal research. I hope.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes, please.
Just I know. So first of all, thank you very much for this. This is wonderful. love to connect with you, your research. One of the interesting things that you might find certainly in your design is depending on where students are in their life cycle through the program, the expressions or their awareness of their need for more responsible decision making might change as they become more aware of, I'm not sure I'm making decisions. Maybe I'm not aware to how to make a responsible one. So you don't necessarily know that you have a challenge until you've made a bunch of bad decisions. And certainly I found that because I also teach university 101, that if I ask students about their ability to manage time, they say, oh, I'm great at managing time. But when you start exploring how often do you have to pull all-nighters? Do you often have to make difficult decisions around how you should spend your time? You become aware of that. Or they become more aware of, oh, these are outcomes of that. What I wanted to ask is, when you were surveying the literature, did you identify any institutions that had organized their services both perhaps within the classroom, but also holistically outside, that would be great models you point to?
I am currently, this is not completed yet. And I did find that there was one study where they had used this integration, it was social emotional learning plus the culturally responsive teaching, but it was more catered towards faculties and staff and advisors for their professional development. So they stopped short of engaging directly with the students and finding it out whether the students are finding those pedagogies useful or not. So that is what I found. So the other study that I referred was that it was more about empathy and active listening from the institutional point of view. Again, not from the student's point of view. So these were the two things that I thought I looked at, and I thought, you know what, this is where I can probably jump in and design an intervention based on the you can say the focus group interviews that I hold later on in my study.
So on the financial constraints one, which is sticking out, I'm assuming there's probably a lot of research out there that shows a similar trend for students. But I'm just wondering if you broke that down further, or maybe it's under the umbrella, but things like access to housing, food,
Yes.
work constraints, which are going to affect the hours of sleep. Is that under that umbrella?
Oh, well, it was actually just on its own. I did not categorize it. I did not. So it was just a very quick check-in. So I like to do this emotional check-ins with my students once in a while. It was just a check-in. How are you guys doing with your finances? How are you doing with your time? I often tell them to use that. Sorry, forgot the time management theory, Eisenhower. Yes, so I often tell them, are you guys using this theory to your effective use or not? So I like to really have your study people keep down and probably make more sense instead of having this overarching category.
Yeah, it might tell you more because a lot of students work in 46 hours.
Yes,
Why answer a lot of questions.
so I agree. Thank you for that insight. Yes.
I just have a quick question and adding on to the financial constraints. If you see the challenges faced by international students there as financial constraint, but then when we look down to service consider, there's nothing related to that big category, right?
Yes.
It's what are we trying to solve here? It looks like financial constraint is a bigger problem.
Yes.
But we don't have any services considered helpful. But another interesting point is that now you're talking about the survey on the first year international student,
Yes.
right? And one of the requirements by IRCC for all international students is that they must prove that they have enough fund for the first 2 years or so for the purpose of education, right? So I always find this interesting where again going back to why are you running into this issue again? Or what did you do to prove that you have sufficient financial fund to come together? That's something that I'm curious. And then from there, what services that we offering to help with this?
About the finances, honestly, this is a question that I have asked myself many times. That it just showed the necessary balance to come down here. What did they do with that money? Where did that money go? I see them using expensive iPhones, iPads, and I'm thinking, you guys are richer than me.
Responsible decision making.
And yeah, it's something that kind of triggers my mind too. As for the services here, yeah, these were some specific questions I asked them. So I've just categorized them under services. I do understand that they're not directly linked with the challenge. So maybe going forward, I will, or if I use this data, I wasn't planning on to, but if I do use it for my research, then yes, I will probably think about categorizing so it makes more sense and connect.
Yeah, and by the way, I just want to add on to this one. It's a wonderful research, and I think this information is very, very helpful, not only for students, but also for professors who are teaching students as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
I just wanted to say that following your question and adding some insights to it, I have a few years of background in student recruitment. So I know that how this process works and what sort of money they have showed against financial support and why they feel yes, I did, right? So now I've been in career advising industry for 3 years, but I understand what about the book. So maybe we can have more right. So those insights. Yes. So for
Yes, I don't know how this will work, but we do our CEOs, and when we did just help out this, when we did a a student satisfaction report, way back when I did the student satisfaction section of Write-Up. It was a big report. I think there's information in there that could help you with the research too, in terms of again, if the focus on satisfaction is different, but I think some of the variables that were asked and the questions were asked could be very relevant to your discussion. Sure, I'd definitely be interested to that. I think you could put some of that information out there. Thank you so much. Do I have any more questions? Slides, suggestions? I just want to say, Donna, it was great presentation. I love the idea and I love to work with you with this project. And I agree with all the things that have been said. Regarding the services, it is very interesting when I say that okay, you have to have this amount of money in your pocket, and then you have to come here and they do not provide any support. My students, they have kids, they are not eligible for childcare benefit in Canada. They have their husbands here. They are struggling to find a job. So we are not supporting students. That is why their mental health is like this. They're doing their best, they're studying, but the government does not provide that much support. So 18 months they have to be here with two kids to just get the childcare benefit $500 each month. So that can be, I mean, out of this research that you just present, I think we can have 10 research.
Scholars, you. Yes, because it's such a relatable topic. Everybody will come to our science, use their analytics and make it more skill. It's like, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. So, enjoy.